walls came down when your love shone through. Now my life will never be the same. You love me too much to let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name. You break every chain.
Right. All right, welcome to the Warriors Way in UCAN Studios. Our warrior is Ron Smith today from American Legion Post 16 Lapeer, and his website is American Legion Post 16 Lapeer.com. Welcome back. How are we doing this morning, Ron?
I'm doing great, buddy.
All right. If this is your first time to Spiritual Warfare Unit, please check out UCANMichigan.com. If you know someone struggling with mental health or drug rehabilitation, needs help with those, please check that out. It'll be free to them. Punch in the information on their struggling. We'll have someone call you within 24 hours. If you know someone that's struggling with food or clothes or baby formula because $6 eggs are too much, please go to spiritualwarfareunit.com, click on struggling. We have over 15 of our outreach nonprofits are there to help you with food or clothes or baby formula or whatever else things you need. So help us, help you, help others. All right. Ron, welcome back. So we were just finishing your story last time about 2008.
Yes, 2000. Yeah, the 9/11 in 2008.
Yes, we did 9/11, and you were a part of the Jets that had to make the decision on blowing up Americans or not, and then they took that whole scenario. I just want to talk to you later because we don't have enough time about that, and we could have 3 hours on this. And then, so you're at Selfridge in Detroit. They say you have to go to Tampa, and for the second time, you turned down a promotion for your family, and you decide to go where?
Rock Island Arsenal, which is in Rock Island, Illinois, and Des Moines, Iowa, right in the middle of the Mississippi River.
And you decided to drive now to keep your family where they were?
Yes, because that's only 4 hours from here, 3 hours to Chicago, another hour. It's an hour west of Chicago.
That's like a man choice right there.
Yeah, so I could drive home, and I had a house and my family here, so it was like I could come home on the weekends. Every couple of weekends, I'd come home and.
And you said you were single at the time?
Single at the time, so then every 2
So how
weeks.
old were the boys?
They would have been 20s. They've been in their 20s.
Oh, no, so dad's gone all week and they're home in their 20s?
Well, they were living with their mother. So they didn't live with me. I mean,
I was going to say.
no, I was divorced. I was single for 21 years at this in this whole scenario.
Yeah. So, all right, so you go to Illinois, and what are you doing there?
I'm doing the same job I was doing at Selfridge, at non-destructive testing. So they make.
Can you explain that real quick for people again? The non-destructive testing.
Okay, so we did X-rays, ultrasound, dye penetrant, eddy current, which is like they inject a voltage through some metal, and if there's a crack in it, then it obviously doesn't go through because it's.
Gotcha.
So you can kind of. That's a simplified version of how it works. But so Rock Island Arsenal makes barrels for M16s. They did the armor plating for all the Humvees when they started armor plating them.
Okay.
They did the firing pins for the M9s. They make all kinds of weapons and stuff like that. So
all right. So you're checking those for
right for at this because this is a production facility. So we had a 1.5 million kV tube head for doing X-rays, which I could take a 2 foot.
What does that mean, kV tube head?
1,000 volts.
Wow.
Yeah, kV, 1,000 volts. Like you go get your tooth done, and that's like 0.3 or 0.4 kV.
Wow.
And so 1.5 million, the tube head was the size of this table. So a 2 foot by 2 foot, or a 2 foot cube.
Yeah.
I could find an air bubble the size of a pinhead down 2 foot in solid steel with 1 million kV. And I mean, the door that opens the vault to do this thing was 4 foot thick and on railroad tracks.
Holy
and you had to
smokes.
drop a gate to drive the fork truck through.
How tall was it?
Oh, it's 16 foot room.
Man, so you're basically, to dumb this down for...
You're taking a Volkswagen up into the air and moving it around to shoot down, looking for a pinhead.
You're shooting a ray gun like exactly. Mars. Like, wow. All right, so you're doing that daily. That's just your job.
Oh, yeah.
I just go shoot a ray gun every day.
It's a civilian defense contract, so 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, this facility runs.
It just never shuts up.
They bring in raw, it was like a foundry to, I mean, you take raw materials and make a finished product, mills.
Wow.
So one end of the building was a railroad train track. They unloaded raw steel, and the end of it was, semi
Pins,
trucks.
bull.
Yeah, so I mean, you're firing pins for an M9 or
So you actually got into gunsmithing a little bit in a weird way.
So yeah, there you go.
That's kind of cool. You kind of
So the trailers for the howitzer, 103 or 104 millimeter rocket shells, we built the trailers for those.
Hold on, back up. Now you built the truck. Did you? What's the biggest barrel you ever inspected?
Well, we didn't do the barrels. We did the trailers, but they.
All right,
what's howitzer? Because we didn't actually do the howitzer barrels there at this facility. So there's Redstone in Arizona. There was one in Philadelphia area. They did what we did was the trailers for the howitzers.
Wow! And how big are those? Those things had to be huge.
Oh, those things are 20-foot barrels that are 104 millimeters. Are as big as a pumpkin.
It's like shooting missiles.
That's exactly. I mean, they could take part of when they go out to the firing range in Arizona is they crank it up to the highest projectile angle and shoot that thing off, and it would bounce off the ground and flip over. So that's how they figured out
flipped over.
Yeah, it would, because the recoil from the 100, would bounce off the rubber tires, and the thing is, the trailer is 20 foot long with the arms out the back to stabilize it.
Yeah.
Well, they take this thing up at a 80
And you got to do
angle.
that?
Yeah. Well, because then we had to inspect it, because then you're looking for if they break the welds here.
So you're trying to break it.
You're trying to break it, absolutely. And then they're trying to find the actual angle that they can get away without tipping it over.
Right.
But yeah, you're inspecting the angles. You're looking for cracks in.
So how many of those did you get to break?
Well, I was only there one weekend, so it was like 3 or 4 of them they're testing. But yeah, they take you out there and it's a rotation.
That had to be awesome.
Oh, it's crazy.
So you're doing that. And how was the acclimation with the Illinois boys being from Detroit? There had to be a little bit of a...
Yeah, they were... as soon as you say you're from Detroit, they all kind of cower down because they're thinking, man, we got the mafia coming. This guy's coming from Detroit. He's pretty badass. And it's like...
So that bravado just walks with you when you get in there, and then you're shooting a ray gun.
Well, I've been told I have this swagger when I walk anyway, because then I worked for Home Depot for about an hour, for a year down in Biloxi, Mississippi. Well, for about a year down in Biloxi, Mississippi, when I was down there in 2000 for some training, and I worked for Home Depot, which I wasn't supposed to do, which they have a nice CB base there.
Okay.
That we kind of, which was right next to the Home Depot. And they love me down there because it's like, man, this guy works hard, goes to school full time, he's working part time. And one of my things says, Ron Smith, he's got the swagger, we recommend him for promotion. And,
no kidding, it's part of your jacket.
Yeah, it's actually in one of my employee evaluations. Yeah.
Well, before we get into the military swagger, we got to go to another break. Everybody sit tight. Please like and subscribe on Spiritual Warfare Unit. We'll be right back.
Oh, dude, I'm all over.
About our life application program that we have for churches and nonprofits in the area that are trying to find programming that they can use in case the corona shuts you down and you're not able to get in. You go to spiritualwarfareunit.com. You click on our episodes and you can check out our programs for as little as $29.99 a month to make sure that we're still getting the word out to those people that need it. Now, back to the program.
I'm doing it. All right. Welcome back. We're here with Swagger Ron. And that was part of your jacket as far as promotion. That just means that you carry yourself well and you have that the respect of other people, right?
Absolutely. And I would walk through the whole store and helping people, which they didn't really like because you were not in your area. But, I mean, I had so many compliments in customer service that said, hey, this guy really helped me out. He really knows his stuff and blah, blah, blah. So, and then my boss wanted me to say, you got a swagger that we like.
Yeah. Well, when you understand what you're doing and you have confidence in what you're doing, I think that's just part of it, right?
Well, and back to I enjoyed helping people because people stand around walking back in those days, 20 years ago, they'd stand there in those big box stores with their heads just spinning, not knowing what to do or where to find stuff.
Eyes up and mouth open, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So you're in there, you're going back and forth. Oh, you started this in 2008. That job sounds very cool, by the way.
And then I found another job. So after that's when I found in 2009, I ended back up at Selfridge because I found
What'd you find?
This job at working with the F-16s again. Or no, they just got the new A-10s at this point. So the Battle Creek had got rid of their A-10s, part of some more shuffling airplanes around Battle Creek.
Right.
Lost the A-10s, and they had this new job in NDI again. opening up back at Selfridge. So I was only there in Rock Island for a year until I got back to my family.
All right, so you get back to your family, and how many years in the Air Force is that?
Well, that would have been
2000, so that's
10 years.
10 years?
That would have been 10 years now into the Air Force.
All right, so you're 10 years in, and you're doing what?
Still doing NDI at this point.
All right,
and
so-
on KC-135s, no, that was F-16s.
All right,
'Cause
and the
first part was
A-10?
yeah, the A-10s. Now we're back to A-10.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
F-16s. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
trying to get the timeline.
I did A-10s, KC-135s, and then A-10s.
All right, and so what was that experience like?
Now we are a forward deployed unit, so we are going to deserts.
And
that's-
there is stories there.
There's stories there. So in 2012, we did a trip to Afghanistan
All right.
and spent 4 months there in Afghanistan on my first deployment with the Air Force.
How was that adaptation?
That was rough.
Because you're how old at this time?
Well, here now I'm
2012. How old were you?
I would have been 52 years old.
So at 52, you're in Kandahar?
40. No, 52 years old. I was 52 years old.
Yeah, no, this is why the story's cool, man. So that adaptation there had to be pretty crazy. What was that like?
For me, I didn't really have a hard time with it, but there was a lot of older, because now, like say, most of the Guard reserves in the Air Force at this point, most of them, the median age group is 40-some years old, and we
Really?
have people there that are, like myself, 52, 60 years old.
Wow.
And so there's grown men crying and
Yeah.
freaking out, and of course, and now in this time, women are going. So we have a lot of women traveling with us. And my supervisor happened to have been a female.
Yeah.
And so some people had a hard time coping with frontline deployed.
So what made you just switch that out? Like you've already done that at 19, so that
Yeah, at 19, I'm on an aircraft carrier, traveling the world, getting, refugees.
going through a hurricane.
Going through a hurricane, and it's just like, it's common business. It's not that it's common, but it's, I really
It's
don't.
normal.
It's probably sadly too normal.
Yeah.
Sadly too normal.
All right, so how long was that deployment there?
That was 4 months there.
All right, 120 days. Anything nutsoid happen in that 120 days?
Well, other than the RPGs coming
Bouncing
in
off the tents?
Yeah, and
Other than that,
well, I'm trying to think of some of the other stuff that there were. That was Kandahar was the jump off spot for. I mean, we had, oh my goodness, you could see these outside the wire, we call them, guys coming in
Yep.
with trucks with people with hoods over their heads. We had drones fly in and crash on the airfield. They're flying them from Dayton, Ohio. These kids are flying these drone airplanes, these big, drone.
how big are those things?
Oh, their wingspan is wider than this room. I mean, they're
Wow.
yeah.
So like remote from
Yeah,
Ohio,
the big ones, not these little things. I'm talking a big aircraft.
like the ones they use to go pinpoint.
Yeah, I can't even remember the numbers on them now. But we actually had got to work on. See, now the Air Force in.
Wait, you worked on those too?
Yes.
Oh, my
I mean, I've
gosh.
worked on that. They had these little airplanes that King Airs. They're King Air turboprop airplanes that
Okay.
normally seat like 6 people in the back. That these little executive commuter airplanes, little King Airs.
Okay.
Well, they have a fleet of them in the government. I don't know if I can even say the CIA that they use
I don't
that
know.
have nothing but radios in them.
Okay.
That they fly over and they can pick up radio traffic.
Wow.
I mean, cell phones, little FRS radio walkie-talkies.
Well, that makes sense.
They monitor everything.
Yeah.
And then another one has a big camera in it that flies a certain pattern, and they photograph every rock. So they know when a rock has been moved, obviously.
Wow.
Is what I was told. But so the Air Force is generally when it comes to maintenance of airplanes, the authority on fixing stuff. So these civilians or CIA or whatever was running
Yeah.
these airplanes, hey, this is broke. We don't have the people, or it's not cost effective to fly out an
Yeah,
expert.
figure it out.
We'll have the Air Force come in and inspect our airplanes and tell us blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Army. I worked on a lot of Army C-130 planes that, their doors or
Yeah.
something had
They're
broke.
huge.
Too heavy. They're riding tanks and fork trucks and these things, and they're overstress and everything. And
Yeah.
so the Air Force was known as the expert in doing the metallurgy of airplanes and inspections and blah, blah, blah.
All right, so got him in, got him out. Just the buzz and the sound and the endless energy and just moving around.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're addicted to it.
24 hours. The adrenaline and
Yeah, you're an adrenaline junkie a little bit, I
absolutely.
think.
And I took a college course to be a professional pilot through Baker College here in Flint, and it was boring.
Really?
Because then I got up in the aircraft, the C-130s and the KC-135, so I was too old at that point to be in a fighter jet. I would have loved to have been a fighter jet pilot.
Right.
But I was too old, so they said, okay, you could, so I got up there in the cockpit talking to all the pilots, and you're above the clouds, and they're got their feet up, and the autopilot
And it's
on.
boring.
And I'm going like, this is too boring. I'd rather, ride my motorcycle fast on the ground than be a
Bus driver in the sky.
in the air. Yeah, I said, no, this is not for me. So I didn't pursue that any longer.
What year did you do that?
Good Lord. That would have been back in, that would have been early on back in, I think I was that was in the latter part of my, that would have probably been 2000, 2001, something like that. Back in my beginning
the Air Force.
Because of my
I got it. So you
second
were-
wife at the time, her mother had died in the Detroit plane crash, and she would give me kind of a hard time flying. So,
I imagine that would be a bit of a stickler for her.
so I didn't have any
And your
support.
reason for not doing it was because it was boring, not that.
Well,
That's
yeah,
the
it was
exact opposite reason. That's so funny. All right, so you're going through there, and so when did you get done?
well, in 2015, I go to another deployment into the desert. So about every 3-4 year rotation. So my last one in 2015.
Was that 4 months as well?
No. Now the government is trying to test out as a guard reserve. They generally do 4 months where like active arm, they spend like 2 years at a spot, and they're going like, well, that's because these guys, 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 40-year-old guys, they can't handle being gone, blah, blah, doing this stuff. So our general put up his hand and says, these guys are the best guys in the world. We'll show you that we can do a 7 or 8 month deployment.
Oh.
So we did a double deployment
So 8?
for 8 months.
All right, so right before you go into that, we got to go to our next break. Thank you for checking in here. If you know someone that's struggling with mental health or needs drug rehabilitation, please go to ucanmichigan.com. Like, share, and subscribe. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
I'm really impressed with the teachings that Isaac has been bringing to us, as this is all based from Proverbs.
I like it because it's simple, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's very easy to understand and apply to your life.
It points out, my bad parts, and but it's showing me how to do the good parts, and I'm trying to apply that and make a better life for myself, because I'm tired of where I've been.
It's impacted a lot of the guys as they continue to talk and ask questions after the meetings, as they speak to one another regarding the meeting and the messages and the topics that are being brought up, which are down-to-earth topics of situations and things that we live with on a day-to-day basis.
He takes the Bible and he breaks it down into simple terms and where you can understand. And like I said before, sometimes a lot of churches, even the Salvation Army, sometimes we start using these big words that people don't understand, like even saying someone got saved. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say someone got saved? And it's accepting Jesus into your heart. So it's like words like that we use that people don't understand.
It's just very interesting how he points out, the different things of, the sin part, and then he comes back with the, how to make it better, and he just points it out. It's there. I didn't know all this stuff was in there, but now that he's pointing it out, it's like, wow, I guess if you really dig into the Bible, you find these things.
This is a daily moral standards that we can live by, that the teachings are coming from. And honestly, we can take verse by verse as what he's done, and pretty much he's done the hard work for us, and now laying it out so that we have an easier understanding.
There's some people who don't like to be in Bible classes, but this one seems to get their attention.
I was like, no way. So people that are talking about breaking the rules use their fingers to speak to each other. And that's what gangs do to communicate from point A to point B. It's almost like This has been in the Bible for 2,000 years. And people feel like it's a new thing. That is unbelievable, isn't it? That things that are happening in your life today are in here from 2,000 years ago. That's very weird.
You love me too much and let me stay this way. Jesus, there's freedom in your name.
All right, welcome back to the Warriors Way at UCAN Studios. I'm here with Ron, and he was just getting ready to tell us his deployment into Kuwait. And your general has said, no, our old guys can do 8 months too. And so 2015, you said?
Yes, 2015.
You go to Kuwait, and what is that like?
Well, this was an old bombed-out base that in the middle of the desert that the Russians had been there before us and had bombed this whole place out. So they're doing another stand-up base now because this is a shorter distance because the war was moving further up in Afghanistan and other places other than that. So being down in other places where it was too long of a flight. So we went from further up the hill. And so it was, instead of being a 3-hour flight to the war and back, it was now an hour and a half.
Were you getting bombed there too?
No, because we were, for whatever reason, off to an area that you're not technically not forward deployed.
You know, when I asked you that question, I love the fact you're like, no, we weren't getting bombed this time. Everything was normal.
Yeah, 'cause, well,
The adrenaline rush wasn't quite there, so I don't want it.
well, because in Afghanistan, you lived with an M16 on your hip. So you
Right.
go to the bathroom, you go to the
So
kitchen,
your
you go-
adrenaline rush is getting kicked.
Yeah, so you're carrying a gun. Here, they wouldn't issue us guns.
Here you're just sweaty.
Yeah, now we're just sweating a hot 125 degrees in the middle of the afternoon.
And sand gets everywhere.
You got to wear long sleeves, long pants to work. You're carrying. Yeah, so it's
Easy to drop weight out there, I think.
yes, yes.
So anything that sticks out that happened while you were there that was interesting?
That was really no.
Very boring, huh?
Well, for the ground maintainers, because we weren't. So the pilots had a lot of action.
Sure.
And so they got to do some fun stuff, I guess. So at the end of the day, you could, on the debrief, they would debrief the videos that are in the airplanes.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're invited to come in and look at that. And you get to see them go into the cities and shooting
That'd be kind of
tanks
cool.
out on the roads and stuff like that. So, yeah, so we were thankfully not forward deployed because at this point, and now communications are, you get a little Wi-Fi puck in your own tent and you could I talk to my wife every single night.
That's cool.
Instead of once a Saturday, like a Saturday when I talk to
For 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
All right, so you do that. When do you get out?
2019, I finally retire with 41 years.
Now, just out of curiosity, because I don't know the answer, is that like a double retirement from the military? Or did they say, well, thank you for the extra 20 years?
No,
or?
federal retirement's federal retirement. So they add up your points. And then at this point, I would actually, it was working for the Guard, you're a dual status person. So technically, Monday through Friday, you wear a uniform, you work on military airplanes. But you're really a civil servant, like a post office or blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
So technically, I retired with a 20-year civil servant retirement and a 40-year military retirement. So I actually get 2 retirements, but one's federal and one's military.
Gotcha. All right, so you're retired, and you decide after 41 years of service, I'm going to continue to do service. And you join the American Legion. Now, I can tell you people I know, they're like, I've had enough of helping people and being in front of them. It's enough. And you decided, nope, you are dedicated to your country and your fellow man, and you decide to join the American Legion. Now, I got to guess that some of that's because the brotherhood and the stories and the stuff we're talking about and them stories you guys get, I could just sit and listen to you guys talk probably for weeks. And I'm sure that's some of it.
Absolutely.
All right. But beyond that, you guys still do stuff in the community.
Absolutely.
All right. So you said you did a Christmas thing and something else, something ride.
We do the Riders Group does a Legion Ride for scholarships for college kids.
All right. Hold on. So how did you get all that going?
It's a state program. So every year, a new post picks up the mantle of it and goes like, hey, we're going to be the one in charge this year to raise.
All right. So what did you mean ride for this? What does that mean?
It's a motorcycle group ride that we go to. It's like a 2 or 3 day ride, and we stop at all these cities on the way.
Okay.
Legion Post cities. People donate money. We get sponsors. Big companies, sponsor this kind of thing and kick in money. And
That's cool. Where would if somebody wanted to help out or get a hold of you, where would they go to?
well, they can either go to the state post, and Lansing is where the American Legion is headquartered, and that's where the Riders Group is too. But come to our page.
That's American Legion Post 16 Lapeer.com. That is a handful right there.
And they're all like that too.
Are they?
And,
American Legion Post 16 Lapeer.com.
Yeah. So at the state level, you can donate to the American Legion, write them, whatever.
All right. So what was the other one? Did something for kids too? Christmas,
every year,
something.
Christmas, and we for families, we accept like 5 families a year, something like that. And then we make sure the kids have a good Christmas. We're also Honor Flight. We do Honor Flight, which we take veterans to Washington, D.C. twice a year. It's through honorflight.org or Talons Out. There's a couple of groups that kind of head that up. So I work with those guys to take our veterans. So I'm the Southeast director or board member for the Southeast of Flint to bring all these Legion groups, and I go in front of different Legions, VFWs, whatever, say, hey, look, we're taking veterans to Washington, D.C. in the spring and then in the fall.
What do you do with them there?
We take them, it's all free to the veteran.
Yeah.
And we take them to all their memorials. We take them around, the Vietnam Wall if you're a Vietnam veteran. They do a special program for Vietnam veterans due to all the chaos they received or lack of respect that they received when they came back. So they do a special program for those guys. But we take them to all their memorials. It's a whirlwind one day, get them on a tour bus. And D.C. shuts down for these guys.
Man.
The airport does a big thing for them, walking through the airport, getting on these tour buses. The D.C. police, they stop all the traffic. You don't wait for nothing. It's first-class service for these veterans.
And so after all the service, why do this? Like, where's your heart at? What's the reason? You just give service and help. Why? What's driving you?
Because there's so many veterans out there that need the help, and I have the strength and fortitude to help them. It's like I don't know. It's just something I do because I feel like there's a lot of veterans that don't get their due reward. And
this is why I want to have you on. When you told me 41 years, I thought it said 21. I kept saying 21 because I was like, man, that's a long time. You're like, no, 41. I was like, wait a minute. Wait, what? 41. And then you're going through, and then on top of that, you get done with all of that stuff, which a lot of people mentally crumble, and understandably so. And somehow, the way you're built, you're like, I'm still going to go help people. I find that extraordinary because as you go through something difficult, as you have or I have, there's moments, right? And you're like, what do I do, right? And you can go, well, that sucked, and we're going this way.
Yes.
Or you can go, oh, my God, it sucked. And the very thing that keeps you a victim is the very thing that allows you to be a survivor. It's just dependent on how you choose to deal with it. And your choice was to help people and do a difference. And I totally respect that. We didn't get a whole lot of time to talk about Lapeer and the outreach, but we will on our next trip. Thank you so much for coming around. If this is your first time, please like, share, and subscribe so you can help other people find out things that they need. Sit tight, like, share, and subscribe, UCANMichigan.com. We will see you next time. Do you have a nonprofit in your area that's doing a lot of work that people should know about? Feel free to contact Spiritual Warfare Unit at 810-715-9319, and we would love to have them on to see what good they're doing in the community and find out their story. Thank you so much.